I grew up in a place called Cregan, which was a very small village outside Crossmaglen in South Armagh. I was an only child for many years, and I imagined being a model or a movie star, a ballet dancer or a singer. And my role models when I was a little one was Doris Day. I think in my particular case, I was spoiled, I was wayward. If I was advised not to do a particular thing, it sure as anything, would be exactly the thing I would do. To quote my mother's expression, the nuns will straighten her out. The nuns will do it. My experience of a convent boarding school is actually very good. I was reared in a political household. And politics and the law are not dissimilar. It was a socialist Labour household. Lots of discussions about housing, education, equality issues, justice issues. And it was perhaps maybe a natural inclination. I saw it as a challenge because there were very few women lawyers at that time. Well, first of all, managed to enter Queen's in '69. It was a 4-year course at the time. Very few women. Round about 15% of the students in my year were female. I was gold medalist in my finals, and I had a number of offers to join firms, and I considered the position and I decided that really I might be best actually to start my own firm and practice on my own account, and in some ways control my own career. And I suppose I did something which a young lawyer can no longer do. I went along to the bank and I asked the bank manager for the full price of a building, which he gave to me, untried, untested. I doubt if any bank would grant that sort of authority these days. There were certainly lots of women prior to my time who went into other practices, became partners and so on, but I was the first to actually start a practice. In 1977, it was family law. It was developing. I did a lot of work in that area, separations, divorces, child custody cases, all that sort of thing. At that time, you didn't have a formal family court in our local courthouse. So I persuaded the magistrate that special days should be set aside for matrimonial cases. I think I should also mention that I came into some conflict with the church on this. My parents were at Mass in Uri one Sunday, and the theme was marriage. And the priest got very angry, and he said that too many women were leaving their marriage commitments and going out to that woman in Trevor Hill, which was clearly me. My mother was appalled, and they got back home. My mother telephoned me, and she was beside herself. And I said, "Mother dear, that is the best advertisement I've ever had. That's brilliant, and we'll have lots of people coming to the practice." Particularly in the 1970s, violence was a daily experience in this country, and it did colour practice. Lawyers here are really a network, and the work they carry out is essentially very much representative of the problems which are within society. And at that time, most firms, their work was comprising of criminal law, compensation, either for damage, for injury, litigation with security forces, and you were dealing with victims. And I dealt with that scenario of violence from the commencement of my practice in '77 up until really the beginning of the '90s. And I remember every victim, every one. I met my husband at the first hop I attended at Queen's. We were both 18. He did civil engineering, so he graduated a year before me. I graduated and got married within 3 days. He's been very supportive. Yes, I don't think you could actually perform well unless you have support from your partner, and it works both ways. I've been supportive of his career, and when opportunities came, especially at a time in the '70s and '80s when the engineering challenges were really abroad, I encouraged him to go, and he spent time in Iraq, Jordan, Pakistan, Saudi, the Emirates. He's been away for quite a bit of time. Some would consider the mother experience to be the most important role of all. I'm not going to knock that, but I'm not sure I entirely agree with it. Children grow up and go away. You do need another life. You do need other things that interest you, that identify you as an individual outside of being a devoted mother. I would also confess I'm not a natural mother. I'm not altogether sure that this whole maternal instinct is actually the business that books would tell you about. I decided I've got to do something else to get out and see other things, and that's really one of the reasons why I sought election to the Council of the Law Society in the early '80s. I became president of the Law Society in November 1989, and at that time my vision of the profession was formulated very much by practice, by violence, by a society that was not at one. And I believed that the profession actually needed to relate to business, trade, commerce, agriculture, government, politics, other professions, other associations, the voluntary sector, all of them. That we were not a unit that was standalone. We were part of a large band of groups who all had interests but were driven by public benefit and public interest. And it was at that time, during my presidency, that I approached a number of organisations, including politics, to form a Northern Ireland Centre in Europe. And we were successful. And that office continued for many years afterwards, representing the interests of Northern Ireland in Brussels. After my presidency, I think the first post I was involved with was chairing legal aid in Northern Ireland. I did that for a year. I then became involved with Ulster Bus, City Bus, transport. Became a non-executive director of Northern Bank, and subsequently for a period of time of National Irish Bank. I became the first chairman of the National Museums, which I found very challenging, and I became involved with the governor of the Irish Times and represented the trust on the board of the newspaper. Also a very interesting experience, and I was involved in the disciplinary committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ireland. I was president of the Law Society in 1990. 25 years later, my daughter became president of the Law Society. It was a unique event, certainly in Northern Ireland, and I later discovered that there isn't any example of a mother and daughter representation anywhere on the globe, which is extraordinary.